I'm waiting for the stream to go online. There we go. Now, I'm almost certain that nobody's going to be watching this, so no point in even waiting. Let's just continue where we were. So as I mentioned earlier from part one, Kosovo is a multi-party parliamentary representative democratic republic with an executive, legislative, and judicial branch, in which the legislative is the Kosovo Assembly, the Assembly of Kosovo, and has 120 members, and of which the 120 members, 20 of them need to be from minorities, and of those minorities, 10 of them have to be Serb. The executive is like the prime minister and its cabinet, as far as I understand. And they have a head of state, which is the president, which is Hashim Thaci, and the judicial is separate. That's as far as I understand. Perhaps I'm wrong. I'll look into that again, and if I am, then please excuse me. But I think that is correct. Anyway, so going to the politics of Kosovo, we have the main parties here. Democratic Party is the center-right party, which is pro-Europeanism, civic nationalism. I disagree with that and believes in liberalism. Um, so, you know, it, it uh, it's it's an interesting party, and but let's go through all the rounds and then I'll make a summary of each one. The Democratic League of Kosovo is conservative, led by Isa Mustafa. So this is the conservative party, and they believe in social conservatism, economic liberalism. Again, center right, which is led by Isa Mustafa and whatnot. Then we have Vetvindorsha. Now these people are labeled to be the more nationalistic parties of Kosovo. Um, I'll read to you what it says here. Some I disagree with, but radical nationalism, protectionism, direct democracy, radicalism, Albanian nationalism, Greater Albania, Kosovo unification. So this is the Social Democratic Party of Kosovo. And for those that don't know, Vetvindorsha is self-determination, and they believe in Serb rights and whatnot. But they believe, as Albin Kurti put it, but they believe Kosovo should have a right to decide via referendum whether or not they want to be part of Albania. And I mean, it's an interesting party. They are quite radical, I will say with that. They've been throwing a lot of tear bombs and stuff in the parliament, and a lot of attacks have been labeled under Vetvindorsha, but more on this later on. The Alliance of the Future of Kosovo, I mean, I think that's fairly evident from there. And so, yeah. So, let's get with the problems of Kosovo. There's a lot of corruption that goes down from what I'm to understand. I will give a post update of after I've been there and explored and done all that kind of stuff, what I think about it. But so that's why it's interesting to do pre-thoughts and then post-thoughts. And then I'm going to write my book and then I'll submit it. And it's a small little thing. It's about like 50 pages and I think it'll be interesting. But, so the reason why I'm showing you this screen is due to I mean, this is all preamble and stuff and talks about what government can and can't do, but I'm going to highlight the corruption here and some of the things that I find ridiculous here. For example, there's an office for good governing. That's so stupid. I think that's ridiculous and a waste of funds. Archive Office of ZKM. I mean, I don't get it. This is my favorite song. 1 second. Okay, so Kosovo has been in a state of turmoil for quite a few months now. Recently, that's kind of been settled, but for the longest time, it's been under a state of turmoil. Um, so, for example, um, over the past 6 months, according to this article, there's been issues of two controversial agreements: the border demarcation agreement with Montenegro, and the Association of Serb Municipalities. The Alban Kurti, leader of the Vitvidorje party, has for the longest time been delaying government for 6 months now by throwing tear gas and whatnot and disrupting any further negotiation um, to it. Hence the term "yo negocia" for Vitvidorje. Um, so, uh, it's a multifaceted issue, no doubt about that. Um, but it's a major problem, and as far as I understand, it hasn't been ratified yet. And I think they drafted this last year, so um, it has slowed government down and it's caused much uprisings, as you can see just from like looking at some of these images here and some of the footage here. Um, so definitely not great. Um, also, moving to corruption. So the Guardian, I know the Guardian can be kind of shaky sometimes, but Kosovo is building a new coal power plant um, to help its electric sector, energy sector. Um, However, there have been some controversy with that. I actually like this music up, but I need to tone it down to be able to get you guys to focus on me here. Um, so the one of the things is with green energy, it doesn't really make sense to be relying on um, a finite resource. I mean, it really, if you think about it, all resources eventually come to an end. So it's important to be focusing on infinite resources so that we can keep on regenerating continual resources. So there's been controversy among that, especially since the fucking guy that did it, John Kerry, he goes to Kosovo. He's like, oh yeah, we believe in the Kosovo power plant, and then it goes to the Paris talks and like, oh yeah, we need to cut emissions. So it's quite hypocritical there. But and you can read this, and it talks more about that and whatnot. Um, but what I also wanted to focus on specifically, and where I highlighted it here, is the patriotic bridge. Let's see if I can find that here. Right, here we go. So, for example, if some years ago, about 4 years ago, there was a highway constructed from Pristina to Tirana, and the initial costs of it were supposed to be 400 million euros for this highway construction. However, for some reason, wink wink, it went to 820 million euros. And interestingly enough, the UN ambassador to Kosovo later took a job with the American road building company. He had helped to win the lucrative contract. So, I mean, that's obvious corruption right there. And it just shows the state of affairs in Kosovo and how Kosovo can be excessively corrupt at times, with shit like that happening all the time. And it's unfortunate because it's the people that have to bear that cost. Taxpayer money is going into this thing. So when a highway becomes double its cost, something's up. Something is definitely up there. So this is continually going on the path of this is when Vitvidorje was still rioting and whatnot, and anti-government demonstrations were launched and police had to fire tear gas into the crowd. It was a big deal. Um, and the other issue is despite because I believe, for as far as I understand, um, the public does not support border demarcation with Montenegro and or the Association of Serb Municipalities. However, due to pressure from the Western governments, including the EU and the United States, the Kosovo government is continually on its path to continue for these pushing for these deals, despite public opinion being strongly against it, which is, a clear sign of corruption and the flaw of democracy here. Um, Meanwhile, in Serbia, they get to enjoy um, handouts from the West, where Serbia can continually play this balancing act between Russia or between the East and the West, and continue to get money from both ends. And it really shows a shift in policy to from the West, and it's kind of fucked up. Now, World Bank here the reason why I showed this is this has 3.7% growth in 2016. Well, it was supposed to be something around that in 2015, but it doesn't really do that. And plus, um, growth isn't always the greatest thing. I mean, China has 7 to 8% growth every year. However, while the billionaires keep on making billions, the Chinese people keep on making pennies. Only make pennies. So, I mean, this gap between the rich and the poor is only, in my opinion, going to excel here in Kosovo, due to scandals like the IMF and the West investing in these shit projects and selling them off to bidders, like American companies and Chinese companies who continually use shitty materials to make it, while importing temporary foreign workers. Um, so, I mean, I want to get to the main act between this. I mean, this is, in my opinion, um, it's to me, in my opinion, I find the whole politics around this really sort of trivial. Um, this whole idea of this fucking um, this now let me see if I can find it. Fuck, I can't find it. This bullshit. Like, for example, what I call icing on the cake bullshit. Where, for example, the Thaci, he goes and lays a wreath at Serb memorial. Right, 14 Serbs killed after the war in the village of Strago Gracia, 17 years ago. Okay, so 17 years ago, obviously war is a thing, and atrocities happen to both sides, and I condemn these attacks, obviously, and I feel that um, unfortunately moderates get fucked in these things, and I don't think it's fair for them to be shot like that. So, but it's not surprising that there are people that do this when, okay, so Thaci gives his condolences, to these people, but, and as the article goes on, but the victims' families criticize the gesture. So, I mean, what the fuck, seriously, what the fuck? I'm gonna read to you. Zoran Cherkovic, the mayor, didn't want Thaci to visit until the killers are found. We told him it is not the right time until those who ordered this crime have been brought to justice for one of the biggest crimes against Serbs in Kosovo. And until this happens, he is not welcome in our village. Well, listen here. Look at it on the other side. 10,000 bodies are fucking missing, and hardly anybody is being prosecuted on that side. So, fuck off. How about that? So, I mean, this kind of shit icing onto the cake is to me, it's a facade. And let's just get to the main part of this here. This is how this is how politics is done in the Balkans. Okay, We look at fucking maps, and then we determine borders, and that's how things are done. Okay, this is the map of Kosovo done in 2011, according to some Luan Ziciri. Okay, so for some reason Albanians are fucking like brown on this map, or I don't even know what color you call that. Um, I hope this is not overbearing either. Um, no, it should be fine. Okay. Um, so clearly Kosovo has a clear majority in a lot of these states. Now there are some Serbian enclaves around, say like here and whatnot here, and this is where the Goriani people live and whatever. Um, but clearly Kosovo has a clear majority in much of its area. There is the issue, however, of the north, and this is the north of Mitrovica. And so let us talk about Mitrovica. So, I mean, I'm going off of these statistics here. So Kosovo Serbs, according to Wikipedia, are around 90 to 120,000. It's kind of gay because it says, oh, total population is around 300 to 350,000. Well, you know what? Yeah, some people left. A lot of people left. But the same thing happened to Kosovo. I'll get to that later. So yeah, so there's around 90 to 120,000 people. Now, because some of them live in enclaves, let's just be conservative. Let's just be liberal and say there's about, I don't know, maybe there's 100,000 people living up north. I don't know, 90,000 people living up north. I don't know. Maybe it's less. Okay, but it's a fair number up north. If we parcel them out, and the problem is that they want to secede and they don't support Kosovo and whatnot, which is, I mean, I'll get to that in a second. So the West needs to pick a side here because I'll read to this. Serbia unstable pass recognizing Kosovo is not a requirement. Well, okay, so I mean this is just retarded. Okay, so I mean the West needs to understand this, and they're fucking idiots about this, where like you pick one side or the other. Like there's no negotiation here. Like it's just that. So like what what like what are you doing? How can you like you make an independent state and then you tell Serbia to fuck off, and then you're like, oh no, you can join us, just and you don't have to recognize. Like, anyway. So, like I said previously, there was a big scandal, and I'm mentioning all these things to show a progression here, because, like I said earlier, I think all this fluff about government parliament and blah 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 and whatnot. The concept of Kosovo is well, we'll ask about these questions later, but I think politics in Kosovo, while masked to be like a Western thing where everybody can get together, has not worked. Um, is my conclusion. And this is why I'm going into these Serb municipalities, and then I'm going to go into the Albanian stuff, because ultimately I think Kosovo is a failed state, and I think something needs to happen with it, and so the best way we can do this is just look at the borders and how the politics around here truly is, because I feel like politics around the Balkans, specifically Kosovo and Bosnia and whatnot, it's all about the numbers. So I'm going to be realistic about this and skip all the fluffy horse shit and just go into the numbers. So That's why I looked at the Serb statistics and whatnot. So the like I said earlier, the controversial thing that was going on around Kosovo is this association of Serbian municipalities, which wants the north and some enclaves within Kosovo. This to me is bullshit. To a lot of Albanians is bullshit. Um, because how is it fair that um, that that Serbs should be able to establish municipalities when Albanians in Serbia, particularly in Preševo Valley, is not allowed to do the same thing, and are not allowed to have a sort of Albanian assembly. I mean, they participate in government like the Serbs of the North, so it makes no sense. It's hypocritical at best. Um, so I also wanted to refer to this to talk about, as shown earlier, the Serb statistics said, though, there's 300,000 people from Kosovo that are Serbs. Well, yeah, sure. And there's around, 1 million of Serbs around the world. Um, I'm going to skip because, I mean, like, of course there's Serbs in Bosnia and stuff, but so what? Like, okay, so there's what? Like if I took a calculator and I looked through all this, I, I'm gonna be liberal and say there's around 1.3 million Serbs around there. Yeah, so there's over 2 million Serbs in diaspora throughout the world. So great. Um, Now let's skip um, up to 4 million. So let's say 3 million Serbs. Let's skip the top three here. 500,000, 500,000, 1,000,000, 500,000, 300,000, 1.3 million. Um, uh, you know, um, 500 million, 1.5 million, 1.8 million, um, 2 million. Um, to 300,000. So 2.15 million, 2.2 million. I'll skip Serbia. 2.2 million. Let's say with Canada. Okay, skip Montenegro. 2 point, whatever, and you keep on going and keep on going, and let us also remember that there can be up to 5 million Albanians who are Turks. So it's quite of Albanian origin who have migrated to Turkey due to, in the Ottoman Empire for labor reasons and whatnot. So there's a lot here too. Let us not lie. And let us also remind ourselves, if we scroll up here, that um, where have I seen this number here? More than 1 million Albanians have left Kosovo since the late 1980s permanently, not counting those fleeing the Kosovo War who have subsequently returned. 1 million, not including the Kosovo War. So let's be realistic here. Um, so I come to this point. Oh wow, fucking came back. Holy shit, never mind. I had the video. Love you. Blah 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 blah. Go on YouTube. Blah 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 blah. You didn't warn me. Oh, sorry, bro. Um, I didn't know you'd be up all night. Um, Thanks for catching the stream. So I come to this point with everything that we learned of the Kosovo history, the politics, um, which I feel is personally a facade of politics, with fluffy bullshit like Fauci going to Serbs' graves, them Serbs telling him to fuck off, which resorts to politics becoming a number game, and us going through all the numbers and asking, saying, okay, so yes, there's a Serb north, but there's also Albanians in Serbia and Preševo and Buyanochi and blah blah blah. Um, so we get to this page, the final page, to talk about. I asked the people in Kosovo, and I asked the Albanians in Macedonia, and Macedonians, and Serbians living in Kosovo, and Macedonians living in Macedonia, and whatever. What does it mean, well, especially, but particularly to the Kosovo ones, and I'd like to understand everybody's opinion of this, but to me, if I were to ask a Kosovar Albanian, what does it mean to be a Kosovar? I'm curious of the response. And because from my research, my findings, Kosovo seems to me to be a made up state. Created in 2008 to be a multi ethnic country with respect to Serbs, Bosniaks, Goryanis, Gypsies, and Albanians. And while that's interesting, while, it's an interesting attempt, and I do commend the liberalism behind that, it hasn't worked. And I feel like the reason why it hasn't worked is for the reasons that I feel that the West is very terrible when it comes to statecraft, and it surprises me how awful they are. Where the United States and the West can prop up dictators and create new countries. And for example, like the overthrow of Saddam Hussein and the establishment of an Iraqi republic, and how they can just it's interesting. I don't like Saddam Hussein. And he was an authoritarian. And but if you're going to take out a leader, and establish a republic, you need to understand the art of statecraft. You need to understand economy. You need to understand poverty, and running things through a neoliberal lens does not build a state. This is not the correct way of building states. And in my opinion, it has caused further division among the people in Kosovo, and has just created a larger issue in the future. Okay? And I believe the same thing with Bosnia. I think Bosnia is also a failed state like Albania, and I feel that in time there will be a greater issue that will come out of these two failed states. Because, again, there's no Bosnia. There has been a Bosnian kingdom, right? But a multi-ethnic Bosnian state, a tripartite between the Serbs, Bosniaks, and Croats is not working well when one of the three republics does not like the other two. And when you need to have a fucking like a consensual agreement between the three, it creates a lot of deadlock. And I feel the same thing is happening with Kosovo currently, and people are not happy with it. But unlike the Bosnian state, it frustrates me more when 92% of the population of Kosovo is Albanian. So to have something like this, a multi-ethnic state, when the ethnicity within Kosovo is not multi-ethnic, to say the least, saying Serbia is a minority is probably the best status that they can possibly get within Kosovo. So, I'm I'm curious to see what other people think, but honestly, I feel that there's no such thing as a Kosovar identity, unless you're referring to Kosovar Albanians, as in Albanians living in Kosovo. But other than that, I am very skeptical of a Kosovar identity. So, I leave you with that question of what is Kosovo? What does it mean to be Kosovar Albanian or a Kosovar? Because honestly, being a resident in Kosovo means not very much. Now, I have a few solutions to the crisis of Kosovo with the Serbs. Kosovo joins Albania. Okay, they have a referendum and they join Albania. Okay, so say they just join Albania. Albania accepts, and to appease the Kosovo Serbs, they give them some autonomy. Um, nah, I'm heading out. Um, and so yeah, that is one way to deal with it. Number two, Kosovo continues to be gay and becomes a Bosnia. That's an obvious option. If people want to deal through with that shit, they have the right to. Um, but I feel that Bosnia is slowly turning into a shithole and very little has progressed. So I feel that option number two, probably in the best interest of the politicians, but not in the interest of the people. Funny that because the politicians are supposed to represent the people, but when highway projects become doubled, and the former UN ambassador becomes, a part of the highway project which he recommended, is all I have to say to that. Yes? Yes, indeed. Number three, Kosovo petitions to join Albania with the Serb divided north. So as mentioned with I'm going to pull up a Balkan map ethnic map. Come on, internet. Fuck's sake. Why is it so fucking slow? Come on. Thank you. I'm looking for something modern, you faggot. Okay, this is very much not fucking modern. Come on. There we go. This is like... Now obviously the numbers have changed and Macedonia has gone more and more Albanian over time, as I've shown in the previous video. But, so that little tip goes to Serbia. And this goes to Albania. And that means the northern part of Kosovo is divided. That way it appeases the Serbs and it appeases the Albanians. That is an option. Though I'm not supportive of that one. Kosovo joins Albania, but with a resettlement program. And what I mean this is that there, like I said previously, there are many Albanians out there. And many poor Albanians too, some living on the streets and whatnot. And if you can resettle that, because 100,000 people is in a concentrated area like that is not easy. Is quite easy to resettle actually. And as some may disagree with it, Israel's been doing it for fucking years, and it's been going nothing but successful for them. So a homogenous state would work very well in keeping national unity high and whatnot. So it's an option. Now, the final thing that Kosovo could do is it could do number one, the fuck off. However, could join Albania. However, it could do an ethnic swap where Bujanović and Preševa move into northern Kosovo and northern Kosovo Serbs move into Serbia. That would be perhaps, I feel, the best way to deal with an issue such as that. Or it would be an option to deal with that. And it has worked a lot in history before. We can take a look at the, if we take a look here, look at, for example, Pakistani, Indian swap. Indian migration. I'm not finding it. Anyway, it was a real thing where droves of people, Kosovo Slavs nation. Thanks, Alex. Um, it is a thing. Uh, Monkey pricks live there. Excellent. Um, it is a real thing. Ethnic swapping between uh, Kosovo, Albanian Serbs um, and Kosovo Serbs. That's so fucking weird to say. The Serbs, the Albanians in Serbia, and the Serbs in Kosovo, they can be doing a swap, and that way it would create both states to be continually homogenous and resolve a lot of the issues there. Um, it would be the most humanitarian thing to do, um, and I think it would work well because the people in Buyanoshi and Preševa are actually suffering major time. Um, so there's that. Um, but yeah, so those are some of the ideas that I have. If you have any other ideas, I would love them. Um, hey Alex, I'm doing a video, dude. A very informative one. And yeah, so those are just some of the things that I thought of a treatise on Kosovo, and I'd like to hear you guys' opinions and whatnot. And I thank you all for, sticking around and checking out my shit. And in the future, I'll be uploading more garbage onto my YouTube channel and I get around to it some fucking time. Because I've been meaning to do that. And yeah. So for all those, it's fucking 11:45 for me, and I am fucking dead. So yeah, I will, dude. I'll fucking upload more Civ and take more workers. Fucking workers, dude. So yeah. There's nothing else. I will be seeing you fags all later. Thanks for stopping by. And fuck you all. Thanks. Bye.